Hello, and welcome to Saturday Soundbites. I'm your host, Veronica, and I'm so excited to have you here with us on another episode of Saturday Soundbites, where we talk all things visibility strategy, marketing, advertising, public relations, branding, networking. All of those things are going to help you grow your visibility and really get you out there and be seen by folks, whether you run a brick and mortar business, an online entrepreneur show, you're in the nonprofit space. We are here to learn and grow about getting visibility, publicity, and really tapping into all the assets that are going to help grow your brand. So we've got another great guest for you this week. I am just super excited about Carrie Roper. I'm going to bring her on in just a second, but I'm going to remind you, if you are watching this show live on Facebook, make sure you go into the comments. Let us know where you're watching from. Hashtag replay if you are watching it a little bit later. And if you are listening on our podcast, make sure to hit subscribe because we want to make sure that you don't miss another episode of Saturday Soundbite. So with that, I'm going to bring on my guest, Carrie Roper, as I mentioned. This woman is fantastic. She is a multimedia producer. Her experience is truly, truly phenomenal, and she's going to drop some great nuggets for you. So with that, I am going to bring her on. Hello, welcome, Carrie.
Hi, good morning, afternoon, evening, wherever you are.
I love it. I love it because we do have people watching from all over. I love when someone types in watching from the UK. I'm like, yay, that's amazing. Love it.
I love it too. That just shows and I know we're going to talk about it, but that just shows the power of how much the digital space, you can watch it from anywhere. You can watch it at any time. It's amazing.
It is. It really is. And it's broadened the world for us. So tell us a little bit about you, a multimedia producer. What does that really mean? You know, back in the day, it used to mean you were in TV news, but I'd love to hear more about your journey.
Yes, absolutely. Well, thank you so much for having me on your platform. You and I have talked offline. Your platform's fantastic. I just love you. I love what you're doing. So I'm really grateful to be here. So multimedia, you bring up a great starting point. You know, that term has really changed from what it used to mean, or it still, I get people to this day that go multimedia, you know what, and it's a big term. So I'd love to get into that later. You know, my career started off, when I was a student here in my hometown, at UNLV in Las Vegas. I was fortunate enough to somehow go to the Ellen DeGeneres show. I was a gamer on the show. So a contestant, had a blast. And at that time, I was just going into my senior year in college. I ended up asking, hey, do you need an intern? And shockingly, they said yes. So I commuted back and forth to the show from Las Vegas to LA twice a week during my senior year to fulfill that requirement. But then in turn, you know, it was a blast. Like, they were in season 6. I was like, this is the biggest talk show in the entire world. What an amazing opportunity to learn. And so shortly after I graduated, I ended up becoming a PA. And so I was a runner, and I learned everything from the ground up, from the control room to the writer's room to, you know, even the most basic things, getting coffee and things like that, and helping the web department, which at the time was 2 people. It was the web facilitator and then myself, if I was on an intern rotation or a PA rotation. So I was with that show for 6 seasons. I had the most amazing time. I moved my way up from a PA to an associate producer to a producer. I traveled the world, did so many amazing things. And then when I moved on from there, I went to reality TV and learned the complete opposite side. Because at Ellen, I was in the field. And then in the back, I learned at Bunim Murray, which it oversees shows like they launched The Real World, The Kardashians, all those reality TV staples that everybody is too afraid to admit they watch. And I learned the post-production side, so how all of it comes from the back end and the editing and deliverables. From there, I freelance produced in LA for a couple of years and did projects from commercials to, that's where I really got into the digital space with a company called Jash and learned that whole side and how the production and the post kind of melted together to come into this new world of digital that people really were just figuring out. And I ran a talk show, or excuse me, I helped run a talk show for Bethany Frankel in New York at the time, get that started up. It was just an amazing journey. When I came back to Las Vegas, again, my hometown, I had to kind of start over, and there weren't many opportunities such as talk shows, reality TV out here built up about 5 years ago. So I went into the news space and I started over, taking my skills, but learning news and working the overnight shifts at work at 2, 3 in the morning, and booked guests and helped write the shows for our anchors, who are just an amazing group of talent. And I ended up running a show for almost 3 years called More Access. It was our entertainment lifestyle programming in the evening. And I got to kind of have a collision of worlds again. So it was just fantastic. And when I left there a couple of years ago, I started my own multimedia LLC recently because I had so much experience freelancing in a different aspect. So under that, I did a project for Hulu that's on right now in collaboration with the Dodo. I started a show called Girl Talk with Michelle Obama, and the list of celebrities is like a mile long. And then recently was recruited by our local NFL team to help run their video production department. So I kind of have had my hands in everything from sports to digital. And during that time, I helped start up a show in the news space for our local newspaper Review Journal, and they went into the digital space too. So it's been a wild, wild ride.
Yeah, I love it. And it's amazing to think that a newspaper has a video, right? A department. And you're seeing more of that, right? I mean, one of the things I want our audience to understand is traditional marketing and traditional public relations is not what it was 15 years ago.
It has definitely changed. You could not be more correct with that. Digital news out here, the Review Journal is the longest running newspaper in Nevada. And that newsroom is full of 150 plus reporters that were traditionally print. And when I came in under the guidance of Jim Prather, who's a executive out here that started at Channel 13, our local news, and he's a legend out here. He made the jump from Channel 13 and went into print because he saw print can't do the same thing that it does. It serves a purpose to be delivered. My neighbor still gets the paper next door. People need that tangible kind of news gathering. And that tends to be a different type of audience. Now, when you're catering to the audience of, millennials and the up and comers, they just want it fast. They want it quick. They want it now. And that's not the paper. You have to wait for that. So they needed to find a way to sustain past print. And they ended up doing a series called 7 at 7, which I helped produce and hosted the evening show, which was genius. It's still going on. It's 7 minutes of nonstop local news fast. They give you just the headlines and snippets, and you can get it across any streaming platform. You could get it on Facebook. It's really changed the face of news here locally, because now we're seeing a lot of the local traditional news outlets go, oh, that's a great idea to dip into the digital space so people can get those bite-sized nuggets, and they're now following suit.
Yeah, and that's happening across the country. It's certainly something that we're seeing in larger markets. And I think that's really important for entrepreneurs and business owners or anyone in the visibility space. Used to be someone would say, well, I'm just going to log on into Word and I'm going to create a press release written on a template, and then I'm going to fax it or email it to somebody as a PDF. That is not how newsrooms want to get their tips. How do you work with people, and how do you suggest people start understanding how to pitch in this new digital world?
Absolutely. I say the first thing I usually tell people is throw out the old rule book. There was a saying that old is gold. That's not true anymore. Now, is there a foundation that really kind of can help? Then that knowledge, of course, if there's PR agents or marketers or consultants working with clients on behalf of their clients for delivering their message, your experience is never going to go anywhere. Just because you worked in print or something traditional media for 15, 10, 20 years, whatever that looks like, that's only going to elevate your game. But I think the one thing to know is, as you mentioned, sending out a traditional press release didn't get my attention as a producer at all, because it's a lot of information, which is great. You want the who, what, where, when, and how, and the why. But I don't need to read through 20, 30, 40 lines of text to do that. If you just hit me with bullet points in an email and say, hey, even if it's a cold email as a producer, maybe a witty subject line saying time, hey, topical, here's, happening next week only, coming to Vegas for 1 day. That's something I'm going to pay attention to. And then hit me with just some bullet points on what it is. I will ask for more information. And usually that will be video. Do you happen to have any video B-roll that we could use? Because I'm envisioning this client and what they can do. Hi, Scott. How are you? I see Scott Mason's joined. That's amazing. And so having those assets from the back end is so important, because 9 times out of 10, I'm not going to book your guest if you do not have some sort of video. Doesn't have to be the best, doesn't have to be professionally shot. It can be shot on your phone, which most phones shoot in 4K, which is more than enough. But if you send me a long email and you say, all I have are photos, or I don't really have anything, I'm not going to book you. And it's not because I don't believe in the story. It's because I can't tell a story with what you're providing me from a visual standpoint, which is digital, which is television media still at this point.
No, I love that. And literally what popped for me was, if you don't have video, I'm not going to book you. Do you feel like that's the sentiment that most, either people doing the booking or people doing the scheduling, that's the sentiment in the newsroom today?
Yes, I do. I feel very strongly about this. Reason being is because, when you look at newscasts 5-10 years ago, you can see a story, you can run what's called a voiceover, or a reader, where it's just the anchor on camera saying, yeah, coming up this week, we have a great event coming into town, and it's short and it's sweet. It's 20 seconds, maybe max, of the anchor just reading on camera. Those are called filler topics, to be able to just fill time as we lay out our show. But for anything else, VO, which is that B-roll, if we were talking right now, I'd have video rolling of experiences or photos or whatever. Most people, unless it's a professionally shot photo, I found, don't want to see photos, because you can't utilize your senses fully to have that experience. And television and digital media is an experience. And I think over this past year, we've seen businesses shift from when they had brick and mortar stores and they had to find a way to say, how do I appeal to people to keep my business running and to still get the message out? What was the first thing they turned to? It was the internet.
Yeah.
Digital media. It was, how do I do a spin class and invite people and do that on digital demand? There's a reason. So I do know in the producers and a lot of my friends who still work in the news industry, that's the number one standard, is just please give me video, because then I can sell your story and I can make it something special.
Absolutely. And do you feel like that is where people are making a lot of investment, is in equipment and in the technology? I mean, we've talked about, yeah, you can do it on your phone. I mean, literally, I can pick up my phone and shoot a video. So if I'm an entrepreneur, I've got this great new product and I'm not working with a team of people yet, I'm on my own, what would you tell me? How do I get my product out there for people to learn about?
That's, again, another great question. I was fascinated the other day. I was in a store with my children, and my 9-year-old son has been asking to start a YouTube channel for quite some time. And I'm like, oh, we're not quite there yet. I looked in the aisle and he goes, Mom, look. There's a podcasting and a vlogging kit for children now that they sell. And my mind was blown, because I went, wait. What happened? I was just getting used to, some of the equipment that we have accessible now and the tools that can make anybody at home just really shine. So that kind of threw me, and it was a really good reminder of how fast this industry moves, because now they're catering to children because they know that that's the next generation coming up. So my advice for entrepreneurs and those that think, I need to really have this big team, is that ideal? Yes, because you're banking on people like yourself, Veronica, that have decades of experience, and myself that kind of know contacts in the industry. But if you're just starting, I always recommend, look, start small. Even if let's say if you're an entrepreneur and you have an event and you say, I don't know how to promote this event, start soon, start small. And even if it's on your camera, I always tell people, hold your camera like a hamburger, not this way, because you have to think of how you're watching television. That's how you want to film, and you want to picture whatever you capture here to go on television. Start recording and taking some stuff yourself on your phone. Send it to some friends. Say, hey, does this look good? Can you hear? Do you have sound? Does the picture look great? Yeah, sure. That's fine for now to start off and try and promote. And even if it's just, if you're an entrepreneur and you're trying to get some information out to people, record it I always record on Zoom. You can self-record and change yourself out and then save it as a file. There's a great editing program I recommend called WeVideo, WeVideo. They have for 10, 15 and elevated pricing a month. You can drop that video from Zoom into WeVideo. It's so easy for editors, for the novice editor that's never done a thing. It'll guide you through it. All you do is pick your best sound bite, send that. If you only have photos, fine, make sure they're high resolution, they're not blurry. If you have some video of just, here's my business, here's my nonprofit, take a look, here's the interiors, and some video of you just talking, that will get you so far. It's because something's better than nothing to these producers. If they can see that you're well-spoken, if they can see that you know what you're doing, that's all they need. They don't need a video crew and the high resolution stuff to be sent to them.
Yeah, that's so refreshing for people, because it used to be back in the day, especially someone in my position, if I'm working with a client, I'd have to book a film crew to come out. Excuse me, have to make sure the lighting was good. There was all the kind of pre-work, and it got really expensive for clients, and it really didn't give the best ROI. Whereas today, it's much simpler, it's much quicker. And the expectation, I think, too, for viewers, digital consumers, is that they'd rather have it quick and fast than not at all. So I think the tips you gave were fantastic, and I hope that everyone listening is taking notes. Are there any mistakes that you see people making that you want to just touch on in this space?
It's an interesting mistake, I'll call it, because people think that if you don't get coverage ahead of time for your event, then, oh man, the TV stations didn't come out. Oh my gosh, nothing happened. Because we can never, and we know this, Veronica, we can never guarantee placement. As publicists, as media strategists, you can't say, I promise you, I will get you on a show. Anybody that tells you that, please, like, red flag warning,
Yes.
because that is not, paid media is not a thing unless it's on social or digital where you can buy ads. No one can purchase television space and say, hey, can I get a mention? I'll pay for it. That's not going to happen. So please understand that is a huge red flag. I think a lot of clients I've worked with, they feel if they don't get those news crews out there on January 12th, because that's when my event is, it's a lost opportunity. That's not. Did you get the visibility leading up to the event? Probably not on those bigger channels. I call television the megaphone that you try and get your message out to. But I guarantee you're going to have people after that are interested. But if they didn't know it happened, they can't support it. So I always recommend to clients, if no one's there, or even if you have 12 media stations there, get your phone, get, your vlogging kit, whatever semi-professional equipment that you have within your disposal. Film some stuff, film the event as it happens, film maybe an interview. You can get these great microphones from Best Buy or Amazon for $15 that plug into the bottom of your auxiliary on your phone, and you just clip it here, and it's beautiful sound. Get something like that. Just ask a couple of questions of someone. If you're the someone, have someone hold your phone and just say, and you just talk to the camera and say, hey, we're here today at this wonderful event benefiting St. Jude's Ranch or this nonprofit, and we've had 500 people turn out. It's been a wonderful turnout. And if you'd like to go support, go to this website. Send that to the news stations and digital stations right now after the event is, preferably as soon as it's over. They'll take the raw footage. They don't need anything edited. Just send it to them. Say, hey, just wanted to put this on your radar. This was a great event that just wrapped a couple hours ago. If you can get it in your evening or next day newscast, they will. They will, because they are looking for content, especially on the weekends. Mondays, when we used to go into the newsrooms, oh my gosh, we were like praying for content most of the time that happened over the weekend. So I would caution people that are watching and listening to not think that it's a missed opportunity. Always document everything and send it out, because you never know.
Yeah, absolutely. And I love that tip. Knowing that you were in the newsroom and you were checking the email and you were checking the wires, and you're just like, please, I hope somebody sent something in. Audience, listen to that. That's your opportunity. That is your invitation. Send in your information, because you never know when they're going to need filler spot. And that filler spot, as long as it has a strong call to action, will have legs. And that leads me to really my last big question for you, Carrie. once you've had the visibility, whether it was on traditional television or on their streaming service, what do you do with it? What do people need to be ready to do after their story has aired? Because oftentimes I see that they get really excited and everyone watches, but then what? What do you do next?
Sure. So I think one thing people can be ready, one thing they can do is always be ready. We're working with a wonderful client right now, and he is doing a tour as part of his organization across the country. And one thing that happens in news is, let's say someone drops out, they need a guest now, or they need to send a crew out now. I would always recommend to people, be ready to go on at any time. Do you need to be the most eloquent? No. Do you need to say, I'm so nervous, I can't do it? No. The worst thing you can do is not do it, because you are nervous, because you're getting an opportunity to reach households with your message. So once you send out those emails and once you're kind of waiting, just kind of always be ready to go in case someone wants to speak with you. And after the event and after you've gathered all this content, find a place for it to live.
Yeah.
So that you can redirect people back to, whether it's a YouTube page, it doesn't have to be anything fancy, a YouTube page, a website, that will be the first thing as a producer I look for when a new client is pitching me an organization or an event. Hey, we've done 12 events. We've got one more really big gala coming up, or this is our big event. The first thing I'm going to ask is, great, you did 12 events. Do you have any footage from any of those events? And if they say no, that to me concerns me as a producer, because I'm like, was it not a good turnout? I start thinking of the negatives. So I say, once you get footage, whether it's your self-shot stuff, anything like that, go ahead and put it somewhere, so that the next time you have somewhere to direct people, because footage, it lives forever.
Mm-hmm.
And it really is a powerful marketing tool. You can also look at doing, reaching out to the digital newspaper or the digital publications like 7 at 7 Review Journal, like the LA Times is doing one, and send them stuff. Because if you think about it, television has a certain amount of hours in a day that they need to fill. So oftentimes that content can be taken up quickly. Digital, they have 24/7 that they need to fill. So they're going to be looking for some wonderful, wonderful content. And if you've shot it and you've got it, then send it their way. And you can get a light, like I have a ring light right now to help with the wrinkles and everything.
Yeah, I've got my ring light too.
It gives you that glow. You can get the only thing that people need to start up, if you're a client that's working on behalf of yourself right now, you're just starting out, or the budget's a little small, you just need a ring light. You need a microphone, preferably, to go ahead and get clean audio, because that's going to be important. Your cell phone. Those are the big things. And an account like WeVideo, or something that's on your phone that's an easily free editable app. You just need really those 4 things and you're golden.
Yeah, that's great advice. I love that. I love that. And just to sum it up, what if someone's really nervous and they've got all these things and they've maybe watched a couple of YouTube videos and got some tips and they've sent it off. Once they start getting traction and they've got a YouTube channel, what kind of what's next for them? Is that something that you recommend, that when people have a stronger budget, that they start working with someone like you or like me? Or is it something you can just do kind of for here on out on your own? Are you seeing people get more professional, or do you see the organic movement staying with someone as part of their business growth?
I think you have to look at everything in your business plan as growth. The goal, I don't meet many people that say, I just really want to stay small. I really don't want to grow. I don't want to grow my business. I've never really heard that. So if your plans are to grow your business, I would start looking at your marketing plan and focusing on more the digital aspect. Some people say, a newspaper ad still works for them, and more power to you. Whatever you feel works for you, but you might be missing the mark because you're too close to your business. So hiring a consultant to just look at your plan and say, this is what I'm doing. Here's my footage. Here's what I've got. Tell me your best advice. That can be a one-off purchase. Or for example, I and myself, as well as some people here in the market, offer digital consulting packages where we'll look at your website. We'll go through it with a fine-tooth comb. We'll see every bit of footage you've, taped yourself or had someone else do, and we'll make a recommendation off of that. I'm seeing a lot of news reporters go towards the digital space. A couple of friends of mine started their own company here called Insightful Media, and they have just gone towards digital and helping other clients around, not just here, around the country. So I'd say marketing was the first budget that was cut, understandably, during this past year for a lot of businesses of all different sizes. But I would make the recommendation for that not to be your first cut. Scale back if you have to, go back to basics. If you started shooting, you have a big company and you have to now cut that budget and go back to you just shooting, because anything is better than nothing at this point. And having someone to guide you is so, so important, because this landscape doesn't change every couple of weeks. It changes every day. Algorithms on Facebook, that's a whole thing for a social media manager to try and be able to keep up with that as it changes every single day. So you're trying to run a business, run your business, let the professionals help you as you grow your business to that point, even if it's just, some advice and some information to help you navigate.
Yeah, no, that's so true. And even as a public relations practitioner and a communications specialist, I still bring on coaches to do exactly that, because I get very close to the work. And I just engaged someone to do exactly what you said. So I'm glad to hear that you reinforced the coaching that I got, because that's exactly what I needed to do. And that's what people sometimes aren't willing to gift themselves as a business owner. So I love that advice. It's great. Well, Carrie, how can people work with you? I know you talked about one-off services. I know you've got a great big season ahead of you and with a new team in town. But if people want to connect, how do people connect with you?
Yes, absolutely. I'm on LinkedIn at Carrie Roper, CarrieRoper. Please send me a LinkedIn. I get back to everything. I'm also on email, carrie@carrieroper.com. The website is under construction, but my email is up and running. So, I will always be the first person to tell someone, look, I offer 30-minute consultations for free. Always be the first to say, here's what you need to do. You don't need me. And give them the tools to start on their own. And I think that kind of honesty and that kind of transparency, my goal is to help businesses and help clients and just make them feel more empowered, because this is something that you and I, Veronica, I know have gone through our careers and been able to gain a lot of information. I don't believe in just withholding that, because if we can go ahead and really get some great content out there, I think it can, not to sound cheesy, I think it can change the world.
Absolutely. I agree. And I couldn't agree more with this comment from Scott Mason here. This has been a fantastic show. The nuggets and the advice have just been fantastic. People, if you are watching, make sure you're sharing this with your friends, and be sure to subscribe to the channel and get more of Carrie when we have the podcast available. So with that, I'm going to thank you, Carrie. I so appreciate you being on the show. It was fantastic. And guys, I can't tell you, this woman has some expertise that's just going to blow your mind. So reach out to Carrie for sure. Thanks so much for being on the show.
Thank you. Thank you guys so much. Thanks, Scott. Talk to you soon.
I hope you enjoyed this episode as much as I did. I literally took so many notes. Carrie has some great tips for entrepreneurs, brick and mortar business owners, nonprofit people. You need to also be taking note. You want to get your message out there, and digital media is the place to do it. So make sure you get that camera. Make sure you take the tips she advised, including getting you a good mic, because sound's important, and start taking video. You want to get your story out there. So with that, I am going to wrap up this episode of Saturday Soundbites. We come to you every week with new content. We talk about visibility strategy, marketing, public relations, branding, advertising, all the things you need to grow your visibility. So if you're watching on Facebook and you caught us on the replay, #replay, so Carrie and I can go back and say hello. And if you're listening on the podcast, make sure you hit subscribe. We don't want you to miss another episode. So with that, I'm sending you off and sending you lots of positive energy and light.